Alrighty everybody, welcome back. It is now October 10th of 2022, and we are just weeks away from the official debut of Tales of the Jedi, a 6-part animated series, by the way, that's going to feature stories of young Ahsoka, light side Dooku, young Qui-Gon Jinn, and a whole lot more. So if you guys want to actually learn more about that lore, tune in on Disney Plus on October 26th. It's going to be pretty interesting to say the least. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new Star Wars universe is that between both FAVREAU, FILONI, and Lucas is that they are all working together as a team, as this trio, if you will, to really handle Star Wars in a better light. They're trying to propel it in a more positive direction, and that's exactly what fans want, right? They want the true Star Wars, the true philosophy that George Lucas created, and that he believes of what Star Wars stands for. So, all of it is going to begin with Tales of the Jedi. We already know that Kathleen Kennedy lost her creative power, for the most part, back in early 2020, and since then she has only had creative control over Skeleton Crew and, of course, the Acolyte. But that brings us to one other side here. Alright, on the other end of the spectrum, you have the financial end of Star Wars, when it comes to budgeting or when it comes to marketing, and exactly what's going on with Kathleen Kennedy right now behind the scenes and what Disney recently did to her for a specific Star Wars TV series. Now, that brings us to the next subject here of exactly what happened to Kathleen Kennedy of getting let go and fired from one of the Star Wars installments. Now, with many new Star Wars projects in development at the same exact time from FAVREAU and FILONI, Disney is actively involved with the new Star Wars universe. It's described that currently one of the biggest developments that came from Disney's executives was by firing Kathleen Kennedy from one of the new Star Wars TV shows that are in development. Now, it's noted that recently Kennedy was fired as a producer for The Mandalorian Season 4 due to Kennedy's failures so far with both the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, since many setbacks have been happening with those two shows as of late. Now, as far as Skeleton Crew goes, additional filming is now needed for some reshoots to redo a portion of the 4th episode. The main reason why Disney dropped Kennedy from The Mandalorian 4 as a producer was to completely cut her off from calling the shots on the budgeting of the series, and is putting that power into the hands of Jon Favreau now to make that decision. So, let me just pause here quick. We briefly talked about this about 2 weeks ago. It was in the very early stages, this whole transition of getting rid of Kennedy from Mando 4 on the producer level and having Favreau take over. The good news about this is that this allows Favreau to budget the series the way that he wants to budget the series. Of course, he has to run it by Disney because they're the ultimate ones in control of that, but they're okay with whatever Jon Favreau wants to do because they trust in him. They know that he's all good for it, and that he's gonna really make things up for Star Wars and to Disney. Now, the thing about Kathleen Kennedy and why she lost her privileges of, taking control of the budgeting and the marketing of Mando 4 is all due in part to what has been happening with the Acolyte series, and yes, surprisingly, even Skeleton Crew is now running into some problems with some reshoots, with some sets that need to be rebuilt and altered for scenes to be completed. Now, given that those two shows are all Kathleen Kennedy driven, I'm not quite sure how Disney executives are going to be all that optimistic about it. And already they're very pessimistic about it because they know that she's had so many setbacks. It's cost them, hundreds of thousands of dollars just on sets alone because they had to tear down a lot of those wooden sets, others of which were, the hard foam sets, all these different materials that were used. So the next thing here that a lot of fans need to be aware of is that Favreau is making sure that Mando 4 is going to feel like a movie. Alright, now Favreau kind of teased this a couple of weeks ago that he wants to make it very cinematic. He wants to make it very large, not small scale, and very open world. And that's exactly what Star Wars is at the end of the day. It's very large, it's very expansive. Now I get it, some stories can be small scale, I'm okay with that, I understand that. But at the very end of the day, right, the broader view of it all, it's a very open world story, alright? Now, The Mandalorian isn't necessarily all that small scale, it's not that tight, but it does explore different corners of the galaxy here and there. So, when you look at what has happened with Kathleen Kennedy and why she was fired from Mando 4 as a producer, by the way, this is just the beginning. So far, as we speak, FAVREAU has complete power over the financial aspects of 65% of Star Wars TV shows. That controls the budgeting, that controls the marketing. Alright, the remaining percentage, Kathleen Kennedy still has control on the financial spectrum of Star Wars, but not creatively speaking, just to make that clear. Next thing up, alright, now FAVREAU will now be handling the budgeting of the series with permission from Disney, of course, to give the okay, as well as creating his own marketing plan for the series. Now, Kennedy in the beginning wanted to sabotage FAVREAU's plans for Mando 4, since it is going to be very cameo heavy, and will have many revelations that will create big changes to the Skywalker saga, with many retcons coming the fans' way. Additionally, Kennedy is trying to fight with Disney executives to get her role as producer back for Mando 4, but Disney is not allowing it at all, as they know it will only cause negative, monumental results from a budgeting perspective and marketing point as well. Let that sink in for a moment. Alright, so Disney executives are just not allowing Kathleen Kennedy to have her word, or to even give her a chance to come back as a producer for, let alone Mando 4, but the other Star Wars projects. Now, Chapek is the one that made all of this happen that just got finalized for FAVREAU to take complete control, financially speaking, of course, for Mando 4 and other projects, as well as he has always held creative power anyway. So let's not get this mixed up with the fact that Mando 4 was never creatively in the hands of FAVREAU fully. It always was. We're talking about the financial end of things, the financial side of Star Wars, the budgeting, the marketing, and stuff around those lines that really hype up the show and that really boost up the quality of the show. Alright, so I guess financially does lead into the creativity, obviously, so technically it's the creative aspect if you want to think of it like that, but Kathleen Kennedy, I mean, you know, when you look at what she did with the marketing of Kenobi, it was just, I don't know, it was just very out of place. It didn't feel right. They misled a lot of fans, you know, they used the Duel of the Fates music, and that was just completely cut from the show, not to be used. They don't know why that they did that, but we have one little piece, one little nugget of information of why, is because a lot of it had to do with the fact that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to mix things up and not use John Williams' music in the actual movies because she felt that it would be too much of a carbon copy of the prequels. I never understood that. I think that the prequel trilogy music is amazing. It was used in the Old Republic cinematics. It doesn't need to make sense. It's just great music, and it's perfect. So overall, guys, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.